Granville is a commune in the Manche department and region of Lower Normandy in northwestern France, chef-lieu of the canton and seat of the community of communes of Granville, land and sea. It is a seaside resort and health resort of Mont Saint-Michel Bay at the end of the Côte des Havres, a former cod fishing port and the first shellfish port of France. It is sometimes nicknamed Monaco of the North by virtue of its location on a rocky promontory. The town was founded by a vassal of William the Conqueror, on land occupied by the Vikings, in the 11th century. The old privateer city and fortification, for the defense of Mont Saint-Michel, became a seaside resort in the 19th century which was frequented by many artists, and equipped with a golf course and a horse racing course. Home of the Dore family of industrialists, an important commune which absorbed the village of St. Nicolas-près-Granville in 1962. Port and airport of South Manche. It has also been a douzelage city since 1991, twinned with 20 European cities. Administratively, the islands of Chaussee, which include a small harbour, are part of the commune of Granville. The town is populated by 13,021 inhabitants, who are called Granvillais. Geography. Location. Granville is located at the edge of the English Channel at the extremity of the natural region of the Cotentin. It closes the north of the Bay of Mont Saint-Michel and the south of the Côte des Havres. The upper town is located on a peninsula surrounded by schist cliffs, known as Point du Roc-Cap-Lieu. The rest of the town extends eastward inland, bounded on the north by the Bosque, a short coastal river, and on the south by alternating cliffs and beaches up to the Seigstame. The commune has 4 sand beaches, 1 to the north between the peninsula and the river, 3 to the south on the bay. It occupies 990 acres of mostly urbanized territory, but this urbanization is now limited by the Natura 2000 European Directive and the law of preservation of the coastline. The town is part of the Association of Les Plus Beaux Détours de France. The National Institute of Geographic Information and Forestry gives the coordinates as 48.83806 degrees north, 1.5869 degrees west, 48.83806 minus 1.58694. It is at the center of the urban area of Granville, closing in the north of the Bay of Mont Saint-Michel and its foreshore of a very gentle gradient. It enjoys the highest tides in Europe, up to 14 meters of tidal range. This situation also sometimes leads to significant changes of the coastal features of the nearby beaches. Off the coast, the archipelago of the Chaussee Islands is administered by the commune of Granville. It is one of the only island quarters of France. It consists of 52 islands of granite at high tide and more than 365 at low tide, covering almost 5,000 hectares. Granville is located 17 kilometers southwest of its insular district of Chaussee, 288 kilometers to the west of Notre Dame in Paris. Point zero of the roads of France, 40 kilometers southwest of Saint-Lô, 24 kilometers northwest of Havres, 27 kilometers southwest of Coutances, 90 kilometers to the south of Cherbourg-Octeville, 23 kilometers north of Mont Saint-Michel, 26 kilometers northeast of Cancale and 99 kilometers to the southwest of Côte. A legacy of generations of sailors from the commune. It is also located 5,356 kilometers from Granville in the state of New York, 6,053 kilometers from Granville, West Virginia, and 6,196 kilometers from Granville, Ohio, among others. Hydrography. Granville has natural limits materialized by the Bosque River to the north and the Seig stream in the south. For a few years, an artificial river pierced between the mainland and the peninsula. It was filled and is now replaced by Place du Maréchal Foch. Relief. The commune is largely at sea level. It rises only towards the interior a little more on the peninsula from the Point du Roc to reach 67 meters. Neighboring communes. Granville, located on the Point du Roc, is washed to the north, south and to the west by the English Channel. To the northeast lies the commune of Donville-les-Bains. The village of Colonne is to the east, and to the southeast are the small seaside resort of Saint-Père-sur-Mer and the village of Saint-Planches. The island quarter of Chaussy is located off to the northwest, and Mont Saint-Michel is to the south. Climate. Granville is located on the English Channel coast. It is therefore subject to an oceanic climate. However, its positioning on the Bay of the Mont Saint-Michel, at the bottom of the gulf formed by Normandy and Brittany, allows it to be relatively protected from storms and wind, and enjoy mild temperatures. Annual average temperature stood at 11.4 degrees Celsius with a maximum of 14.2 degrees Celsius and a minimum of 8.6 degrees Celsius. The maximum nominal temperatures of 21 degrees Celsius in July, August and 3 degrees Celsius in January to February show the mildness of the climate and the lack of thermal amplitude. The insolation values given here are those of the station of Côte, due to the lack of local data. Contrary to a common misconception, 606 mm of total precipitation shows that Normandy is not a wetter region than others. The record of rainfall per 24-hour period was established during a storm on the 11th of July 1977 with 57.2 mm of water. In the 1987 storm, wind culminated at 220 km per hour in gusts, which is the current absolute record for the city. Transport. Several highways serve the commune, including the downgraded roads RN 171, RN 24 bis and RN 173. Granville is located 25 km from the A84. It is also crossed from north to south by the old RN 811. Today the road 911, the road to the coast at Havres. The Paris-Granville line departing from Paris Montparnasse railway station has its terminus at Granville station. It is used by Intercité Normandy and Terre Basse Normandy. The northern section of the LGV des Estuaires project should increase opportunities for connections to and from Granville. Several bus routes connect Granville with a network set up by the General Council of Manche, Monaco, with routes 2, 3, 7, 116, 122, 202, 300, 302 and 305, and the NE Acute VA network since December 2014, created and operated in-house by the town of Granville. The Granville Mont Saint-Michel Airport allows landings of private aircraft, and the Côte Airport ensures the interregional links. By boat, the port of Granville serves the Chaussy Islands and the Channel Islands and hosts freight activities. An urban transport network is planned for 2014 and should cross the whole community of communes, quarters and localities. The commune is divided into several quarters: the Hauteville, the historic heart behind the ramparts, Curé, La Tranchée, which occupies the former site of an arm of the sea dug by man, Le Calvaire, Le Centre, current town Saint-Ouen, Saint-Nicolas, which corresponds to the former commune of Saint-Nicolas-Près-Granville, joined in 1962. The quarter of the Agora has been classified priority in the title under the policy of the commune. Toponymy. The name of the city is mentioned in the forms of Grandville in 1054, Grandville in 1056, Grandville in 1172 and Granville in 1175. All modern toponymists agree on the origin of the Gran element. Albert d'Orsat and Charles Rostaring have classed Granville with the toponyms of the Hauteville, Granville type. whose first term is explained just by the Old French grant. François de Beaurepaire followed suit, as well as Ernest Negre and René Lepeley. According to Edouard Erika, the origin of the toponym is explained by a character named Grant who received the fief of Rollo of Normandy during the conquest of Neustria. If experts agree all that it is a medieval formation of ville, the exact meaning to give this suffix varies between village, hamlet, and domain, which should probably be in the sense of rural area. Initially it had the value of the Gallo-Roman villa. Some historians and geographers of the past have attempted to connect Granville to the Grananum, Granana, toponym attested in the Notitia Dignitatum on the Saxon shore from the late Roman Empire. Tribunus cohortis primi Armoricani, Granana novae in Litor Saxonico. This explains why some 18th-century maps describing the former Roman Gaul revealed the name of Grananim at the location of Granville. This hypothesis is now abandoned by contemporary practitioners. During the Revolution, the town temporarily took the name of Granville-la-Victoire. The name was then formalized without this complementary addition. According to the standard Norman spelling developed in the second half of the 20th century, the name of the town is written as Granville. Cap-Lieu is named from the Old Norse word home meaning island, islet, and which has in some cases evolved as who, as the endpoint. History. Origins. According to a legend concerning the Mont Saint-Michel Bay, Granville and the insular quarter of Chaussy were covered in the forest of Sissy, sunken in 709. Granville, in the heart of the land, would then become, like Dinard and St. Malo, a coastal town known as Roque-de-Lieu. In 1066, William the Conqueror, in his conquest of England, sought the help of the Grant family. As a token of recognition, he awarded the lands of Roque-de-Lieu. The Grants are therefore the first lords of the town after the Vikings. In 1143, the parish of Notre Dame was created. It is probable that monks from Mont Saint-Michel went to the priory on Lieu during the first half of the 12th century. In 1252, in the absence of a male descendant, Jean de Granville married Raoul d'Argauges, Lord of Gratteau. In 1424, the criminal case of Pierre le Macon took place in Granville, which was then judged by the Chancery of Henry VI of England in February 1425, in Paris. In 1439, the construction of the Notre Dame du Cap-Lieu church began. On the 26th of October 1439, Sir Thomas de Scales, Seneschal of Normandy, and English officer of the 100 Years' War, bought the Roque of Jean d'Argauges, on order of King Henry VI of England, in order to isolate Mont Saint-Michel, the last French bridgehead into Norman territory. He had the walls of Granville built. In 1440, the construction of the fortress began. To further protect this city, Lord Thomas de Scales had a ditch dug between the peninsula and the mainland, so that the sea and the waters of the Bosq made the peninsula an island. However, on the 8th of November 1442, Byros Louis d'Estouteville took over the castle, since which has remained permanently in the hands of the French. Charles VII decided to make Granville a fortified town and signed a charter in 1445 granting arms and exempting the residents of tax. From 1450, ships were fishing at Newfoundland. In 1470, Louis XI visited the town to ensure its loyalty in the conflict opposing the Bretons and Burgundians. In 1492, the Jews of Spain, expelled by the Alhambra Decree, arrived in France. A community settled in Granville. The right to trade and to lend money allowed the town to arm a large fleet. Early modern era. In 1562, the restoration of the ramparts began and a garrison moved into the barracks. Then in 1593 the keys to the city were presented to Henry IV, marking the importance of the town to the kingdom. Under Louis XIII, the fortifications were adapted for artillery. For the reign of Louis XIV, Granville ships also had the right to capture. Therefore, between 70 and 80 ships were armed, and Granville gave 15 admirals to France, of which the best known is Georges-René Lepellier de Pleville. In 1688, Louvois raised part of the defences of the town. Louis XIV appointed the first mayor of Granville in 1692, Luc Lebauche de Gastagny. However, in 1695, during the 9 Years' War, the English bombarded the city, destroying 27 houses. Vauban then studied possible improvements to the stronghold without having the time to carry them out. Following the attack, the ramparts were raised and increased in 1720. Then, from 1749, development work and expansion of the port was undertaken, with, in 1750, the laying of the breakwater ever present today. This work was completed in 1757. In the meantime, a new barracks was built. In 1763, a fire swept through the faubourgs. In 1777, a new barracks was added, the Jeans Barracks, still present today. On the 20th of July 1786, a new fire broke out, this time in the Tranchée quarter at the gates of the citadel. On the 14th of November 1793, or 24 Brumaire year 2, was the siege of Granville by the Vendéens during the Virée de Galerne. A force of some 25,000 Vendéen troops, commanded by Henry de la Roche-Jacqueline, headed for the port of Granville, where they expected to be greeted by a British fleet and an army of exiled French nobles. Arriving at Granville, they found the walled city surrounded by Republican forces, with no British ships in sight. Their attempts to take the city were unsuccessful. During the retreat, the extended columns fell prey to Republican forces. Repulsed by the population, having lost 2,000 men, they had to abandon the assault but left by burning the Rue des Juifs. On the 14th of September 1803, the English again bombarded the town after imposing a blockade of the coast. From 1815, after years of military conflict, in full restoration, Granville seemed to take a new direction. The Chamber of Commerce and Industry was created. In 1816, the shores of the Bosq baptized Cause Johnville. In 1823, the breakwater was joined to the land, and in 1827, the first stone of the rock lighthouse was laid. Granville once formed part of the Diocese of Coutances, the Parliament of Rouen and the Intendance of Caen. Before the French Revolution, the town had two parishes, the Church of Notre-Dame du Cap-Lieu and St. Nicholas. This parish was an appendix of Notre-Dame until St. Nicholas was set up in 1829, whose territory is regarded as a commune independent of Granville. The port obtained its current appearance after 1856 and the inauguration of the wet dock and the lock. In 1860, the first wooden casino, built by former Mayor Macquin, was inaugurated. In 1865, it was followed by the Hospice of St. Peter. In 1866, Victor Chesnay composed a hymn for his town, Les Granvillais, adapted in 1868 at the theatre. In 1867, the town acquired its first oared lifeboat, the St. Thomas et St. Joseph de St. Faron. In 1869, the newspaper Le Granvillais was created, and in 1870, the Paris Granville line and railway station were opened on the 3rd of July. The town really became a seaside resort, welcoming Parisians and guests such as Stendhal, Jules Michelet and Victor Hugo, and the parents of Maurice Denis, who was born accidentally in Granville. From 1875, major construction resumed, with the construction of a reservoir of 1,200 cubic meters, Palos Consolferino Barracks, and of the auction market hall. The town continued to equip itself with the opening in 1884 of the municipal library. In 1886, the school group of St. St. Paul in 1887, the dry dock, and in 1897 a corps of firefighters. To entertain holidaymakers, the Granville Regatta Society was founded in 1889. The horse racing course and the Société des Courses of Granville in 1890, and the golf course in 1912. The Montparnasse derailment was on the 22nd of October 1895, when the Granville-Paris Express train overran the buffers at Paris-Montparnasse station. Finally, in 1898, the St. Paul Church was inaugurated. The 20th century began with the burning of the Château de la Crête in 1900. In 1905, fashion designer Christian Dior was born in Granville. His childhood home is now a museum. In 1908, the town was endowed with a visitor center. It also became a center of communication with the opening in 1908 of the railway line and tramway of Granville to Swordville, passing through Havres and one towards Condé-sur-Vire in 1910. In 1911, the new casino was opened, with the maternity hospital and the savings bank by Minister Jules Pams. In 1912, electricity was installed in the commune and the Normandy Hotel was inaugurated. 1914 was a dark year for Granville, with the loss of 4 sailors in the lifeboat accident of the Admiral Ame Acute Rose and departure for the war of the soldiers of the 2nd and 202nd Infantry Regiment. After the war, the regatta resumed in 1919, the carnival in 1920, and a son of the area, Lucien Dior, became Minister of Commerce in the 7th government of Aristide Briand and came to visit the town in 1921. In 1925, a new railway station was inaugurated. Granville became a health resort and the Hôtel des Bains opened in 1926. In 1931, the last fishing vessel returned from Newfoundland. World War II, a garrison and coastal town closing the Bay of Mont Saint-Michel, Granville has always been coveted during armed conflicts in the area. During the Second World War, on the 17th of June 1940, the Germans entered Granville. On the 21st of September 1941, an article appeared in Le Granville signed by the name of Camille, where the author was alerting readers to the dangers and lack of basis for the next laws on the status of Jews of the Vichy regime. Despite this mark of resistance, 8 Granville Jews were deported to Auschwitz. Elie Couteau Bobilesco and his 2 sons Armand and Rodolphe, Simon Goldenberg, his wife Minka, and the children Henry and Ruben, as well as Smil Wiesler. 3 communists suffered the same fate: Elie Couteau and Lamort, René Loncle and Charles Parcet. The whole of the population underwent the constraints of the occupation. For the beginning, the Germans built fortifications on the Pointe du Roc and forbade access to the port. On the 20th of May 1942, a new municipal council was installed by the prefect. On the 1st of April 1943, all of the Hauteville had to be evacuated. Barriers and anti-tank roadblocks prevented access. The Normandy Hotel was transformed into a commandant and a branch of the Gestapo. A signature name of this period was Maurice Marlin, born on the 12th of February 1888 in Falaise, and a teacher of English, French and civics. He led a resistance network, notable in the town. In 1939, he organized the reception of Belgian refugees and the evacuation of British soldiers. Later, with Jules Le Prince, they put escape routes to Jersey in place. Throughout the occupation, His relations enabled him to mount a clandestine intelligence network on port and rail facilities and enemy operations in the Channel Islands. Arrested and then released in 1941 and 1943, he nonetheless continued until the 22nd of July 1944, when he was arrested and shot in the forest of Lucerne at the request of collaborators. On the 23rd of July 1994, his son Serge Marland filed a complaint for crimes against humanity. The investigation concluded that he was assassinated by German soldiers. Today, the secondary school of the commune bears his name. On the 6th of June 1944, the Green Plan of sabotage of railway lines was implemented to cut the Paris-Granville line. Liberated without fighting on the 31st of July 1944, it saw the troops of General Patton pass for 2 days, who went down to the town centre by the Coutances Road and up the Rue Curé to get out by the Havres Road. The vibration caused by the passage of armoured cars for 2 days brought down the facade nameplates of several houses. Granville was reoccupied for a few hours during the Granville raid of the 9th of March 1945 by German soldiers who had landed from Jersey on the 9th of March 1945, while France was liberated and Allied troops 800 kilometers away had begun to cross the Rhine. German troops based in still-occupied Jersey launched a daring commando raid against Granville. Although spotted by the radar of Coutneville, the Germans aboard light boats managed to land at night in the port of Granville. They dynamited port facilities and sank 4 freighters. 15 U.S., 8 British and 6 French soldiers were killed. 70 German prisoners were released and 5 Americans and 4 British were captured before the German commando unit took flight. Contemporary history. During the Algerian War, the barracks housed the 3rd Demi Brigade, and then the 21st Battalion of Chasseurs on foot, from 1956 to 1961. It was a training center for thousands of contingent recruits before leaving for Kabylie of the region of Tra. The commune hosted the finish of Stage 1 and the start of Stage 2 of the 1957 Tour de France. In 1962, the town of Granville absorbed the commune of Saint-Nicolas-Près-Granville, the latter, during the revolutionary period of the National Convention, had borne the name Champ-Libre. On the 4th of June 1965, Granville welcomed Prime Minister Georges Pompidou. In 1970, the regional nautical centre moved to Granville, and in 1975, the port was completed with a marina. In 1972, the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Granville, founded in 1815, took the name CCI Granville-Saint-Lô, and which then became the Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Central and South Manche in 2000. In 1973, Hugh David opened a factory for the production of biscuits, in business ever since. In the 1980s, donations by Richard and Acrayon allowed the opening of the Museum of Modern Art. Many buildings in the town were classified or registered as historical monuments. In 1982, the town was endowed of a new hospital. In 1984, the military regiments left the barracks, allowing redevelopment of the Pointe du Roc. In 1991, the Christian Dior Museum opened and the Charter of the Fuselage was signed. At the turn of the millennium, the business incubator emerged. In 2003, the A84 autoroute joined Granville with other agglomerations. Demographic evolution. In 2012, the commune had 13,021 inhabitants. Since 2004, the census of communes with more than 10,000 inhabitants takes place through annual surveys. Of 6,649 people at the beginning of the census of the people in 1793, the commune reached a demographic peak in 1861 with 17,100. 180 inhabitants, prior to be severely affected by the War of 1870 by losing nearly 1,000 of its children. Then began a slow decline accentuated by the World War I, no longer accommodating more than 10,132 inhabitants in 1946. The second half of the 20th century, with the absorption of St. Nicholas Pres Granville in 1962, the rural exodus and the construction of many estates on the outskirts, allowed the commune to win residents again to achieve 13,022 inhabitants. In 2006, the same year, only 0.5% of the Granville population was foreign, with the present small Portuguese, Spanish and Moroccan communities each representing 0.1% of the population, far from the regional average of 8.8%, and 16.9% of households consisted of single-parent families, 10 points under this same regional average. Age structure. As reflected in the age structure, Granville is an exemplary commune in terms of the age distribution of its inhabitants, each category representing around 15 to 20% of the population. Only the centenarians are poorly represented, as on the whole of the territory. However, a lower rate of children under 15 years in 2006 reflected an aging of Granville families and a possible future demographic deficit. The same year, only 25.9% of the population was less than 25 years old.